Hello, team. It is Sunday, August 26th, and this is part 2 of our Moving On Up class. So last week, we talked about just kind of the whys and the hows of moving on up. What it takes to move from fashion director to branch, what it takes to go from branch to area, and how once you're in area, you really can't get any further, division and above without helping other people promote to branch and area. So branch and area really is the root of all success here at Park Lane in terms of continuing to build. So if that is something that you're interested in, then you're in the right place. So one of the things that we worked on a bit last week was this sheet of all the different people that you could think of that might be interested in working with you, or that you were interested in working with them, and maybe even invited onto our opportunity Facebook Live that we did last Monday. So do any of you guys actually want to share anything that came of that Facebook Live with you? Did you have people on there? Did they decide to join? Did they give you any feedback? Do any of you want to share anything about that? Because I know for some of you that was the first one you were ever on, and for some of you you've been on a bunch before. I know so many people are on mute too. Because I kind of have to pull the prizes for that. I hate when I do something like that and then don't actually give the prize in a timely way. So if you're watching this later or just can't tell me now, anybody that joins your team as a result of that usually gets so many bonus points that one of them is normally who wins. So if you have that information to report to me, please do that so that they can be a winner potentially. So the part 2 of this is really about, how can you generate interest in the business opportunity, especially while at your shows, because that's really where a lot of your interest is going to come. These are people who came to a show, so presumably they like jewelry enough to take a few hours out of their day to come and hang out with jewelry and friends and wine and whatnot. So what can we say and do at our shows to inspire somebody to want to at least ask a question? I feel like one of the mistakes, there's a couple of different mistakes that I think trip us up as we proceed in our direct sales career. Either we don't do it or we do it and then we get away from it. But a couple of things to keep in mind is that, number one, studies show that the majority of the people at your show have considered doing your job. The majority have actually considered doing your job. So when we choose to not ask, or when we choose to not let them know it's okay for them to ask, we are letting people, most of the people that were sitting in front of us that wanted the information or would have at least been willing to hear it, we're letting that opportunity slip through our fingers. So that's number one. Number two, sometimes we have a tendency to skip the recruiting message part, right? Because we're like, oh, they're getting a little antsy. I really should just wrap it up. Or I don't think anyone here is interested tonight, so I'm just going to skip that part and wrap it up. And I'm just curious what special powers that you have that would enable you to make that type of determination, because I would like it, so that I didn't have to waste time talking about it if that was the case. And when you equate it to the other things you talk about at a show, so when you do your show, right, you talk about the gold jewelry, you talk about the silver jewelry, you talk about, sparkly beady things, or would you ever go to a show and just not talk about necklaces? Like, I can just tell these people's necks look pretty okay to me. And some of these women already have a necklace on, so I'm sure they're good. So today, I'm just going to skip the necklaces. We're running out of time. I got to get going here. Okay, you're laughing because that is preposterous. You would never do that. So why do we find it okay to do it when it comes to the business opportunity? It's just as important of a part of the show. In fact, if anything, it's a more important part of the show. Because honestly, if you did leave out the necklaces, people would still buy necklaces because they can look in the catalog and find a necklace they like and purchase it. They can't look in a catalog and find a job and get it. I guess technically they could, but man, that's a stretch. So if you would not leave out any of those other parts of the show, then why would you leave out the business opportunity? One reason is because perhaps your belief isn't there, and that's what I'm hoping we addressed last week. So get your belief more in order, that of course somebody is here that wants this business, and it's up to me to find who it is. And if they don't know, then I'm going to find somebody that I want. I want you all to go in there with the idea of course, 2 or 3 people are booking with me today, because why wouldn't you want a piece of this? Why wouldn't you want some of this jewelry at a discount? And why wouldn't you want this fun environment that I provide for you and your friends, right? And also to say, of course, there's someone I'm going to be at this party today that wants what I have. Think of what you have. You have the opportunity to earn additional money on your schedule. You have the ability to decide how much money you want to add. Most people work a set pay, like they make what they make. And when they need extra money, that means they have to cut something out. Right? They have to get a lower cable package. They have to cut down on their cell phone minutes. They have to buy fewer groceries. They have to go out to dinner less times that month. When we want more money, we go do more shows and still get our nails done and still go to the movies and whatever other things we typically do. That is a freedom that many of us seem to easily forget. I say this a lot, but we become desensitized to $100 right quick here at Park Lane, don't we? Making $100 in commission is like an okay show, right? Like it's okay. So you're like, oh, so how was your show last night, Jen? Well, I mean, it was okay. We did like 400 and, one person booked. So yeah, I mean, it was okay because you only made $100 and you only booked one show. Okay, you know how hard people work for $100? People work their $8, $10 an hour jobs for a whole part-time schedule sometimes for what we make at one show, which is normally $200 or $300, right? So we're not going to let that stay-at-home mom whose husband's bugging her going back to work, we're not going to let her go to Target or Kohl's. We're going to show her this business opportunity so that she can still be home when the kid has the stomach virus and when it's Christmas break and when it's summer's off. She's going to have this business. And we're going to help that college student that's saying, oh man, I really could use extra money, but I take a demanding program and I don't want to have to work the day before an exam or the day before a big paper is due. How about we're going to help the person who's nearing retirement or who is retired and is like, oh, damn, I don't have what I needed to live the lifestyle I thought I was going to be able to live upon retirement. I feel like a lot of my recent recruits have been that age group where people want to prepare ahead of time for retirement while they still have the contacts of the girls at work, start the business now so that they get that going. How about the person like myself when I started in direct sales, the pregnant girl who wasn't going to want to go back to full-time work, but sure as hell wasn't going to survive on, no money. So that's who we have to think about, and that's who we have to remember is sitting at the show. So when you say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to do it because I'm sure that they're going to be annoyed. No one here wants the business. I'm just going to skip to the end. That means that you've taken this opportunity from all of those people that I just described that are sitting in front of you. And that's not okay. It's not okay because the one person in a blue moon who was actually annoyed that you took a few minutes of her time to do it, she forgot. The minute you stopped talking, she already forgot. She's on to the cheese platter. She's on to placing her order. She forgot you even spoke about it. But the person who needed it is thanking God that you just provided a possibility, that she has something to possibly talk about. And that's how it kind of was for me. I didn't start in direct sales for a solid year and a half after I attended a show. I just put it in the back of my mind as that would be something that would be great to do when I have kids and don't want to go back to work. I wasn't even pregnant yet. We had just bought a house, but that was something I kept in mind. And then when the time came and the Cobra was due, Anthony was like, what about that stuff that, what about those home parties you said you were going to do? And he kind of made me get moving on it. So what is it that we need to say and do to make this happen? So since we just decided, I'm never leaving it out, what is it that we need to do? Remember that there are people that are joining this business for different reasons. So there's different types of seeds, and you want to make sure that you're addressing each kind. So for example, let's go with the most, if we want to call it shallow, right? The ones that will buy a ton of jewelry and they're like, I like jewelry and I think I would like to make money selling jewelry, and plus I won't have to spend so much on it if I sell it, right? Those are the girls that are going to be seduced by your product seeds, right? Those are the girls that when you hold up your pina colada earrings and say, I actually got these earrings in the promotion that we have every single month. Every month, Park Lane allows us to earn more free jewelry. And this was one of our Ensemble of the Month promotions. And I received these one day in the mail, $80 earrings that I got completely free. That girl just went, oh my God, she got those free. I'm about to pay $80 for those, or I'm about to pay half price for those. She got them free. She puts a little ding. When you talk about how your kit only costs $229, because you're going to say that. It doesn't matter that your kit was actually a different price. It doesn't pay to say, oh, well, it was a different price when I did it. No. When I paid I paid $229, and I got to pick out $1,000 worth of jewelry. And the $229 came out of the paycheck that the girl gave me when she did my show. That's somebody who's saying, wait a minute. All of that jewelry on that table came in her kit, or she earned it for free in the promotion she talked about before. There again, there's your jewelry monger who is excited by the product seeds. Just like some people will book a show when enough product seeds are talked about, right? Then there's the people that are looking for freedom and time and things like that. So that's where you need to make sure that either in your story or somewhere in the seed dropping procedure, you're talking about something about your schedule. That's where somebody like Jennifer should be talking about, I do have a full-time job and small kids, and that job, I do find it a little stressful, or whatever the case may be. But we're a young family, and we just found that there's always extra expenses, and I thought this was a great way to supplement our income without my husband having to ref another 10 games a month, right? That's somebody saying, her husband doesn't have to work quite as much overtime because she goes out and does a couple of jewelry parties here and there. If you went on a field trip that day with the kids, talk about that. There are many moms that it hurts them to check off, no, I cannot escort the school on a field trip, because they don't get that kind of time off their work. Then, of course, the money, right? There's the money ones. The people who will be really enamored by looking at that series of paychecks in the back of your recruiting album, if you have one or don't have one yet. Remember, I showed the recruiting album real recently, right? I did that just recently. Okay. So it doesn't have to be like a photo album from AC Moore, so to speak, or whatever your craft store is, Hobby Lobby or whatever. You can do it in a binder with sheet protectors and just put in a series of flyers like post brochures, trip brochures, rich rewards brochures, and a series of paychecks, and call it a day. Throw in a few photos that you take off of each other's Facebook pages, convention, take a few photos at shows, bam, you're done. Doesn't have to be a whole glittery art project that takes you 3 months to put together. I'd rather you put something together that's not as deluxe and get it done, right? So those people are going to be intrigued by the money. The travel. There are so many people that would love to do more travel, but really have no opportunity to do so because either the money's not there, the time's not there, or they have the time, but they don't have the money. So let's get them revved up about going to Rome, or the potential of going on any random 2 trips a year. Even if it's not going to be Rome, what about the next trip they announce? What about the trip after that? So then, of course, you know, you're going to have your money ones. And those are the people that are going to say, show me the paycheck, how much can I make? And that's why you have to do some number dropping during the show. A great starting point to always mention is the point of approximately $600. Studies do show that the average American family that is struggling by about the lack of $600 a month, and that if they steadily had $600 a month coming into their house, life would be tremendously different. Now, that's not, of course, to say, would people love $3,000 more? Of course, I'm not saying that at all. But people who are struggling, that's the number. 600 would make a huge difference in a steady 600. And honestly, here, can't we safely say you would make that in doing 1 party a week? I mean, I feel like that's a safe bet. It's probably more, especially as they get better at the job, especially as they start throwing in a personal appointment, a Facebook party, things like that. It's really going to be closer to 1,000. But we can call it conservatively 600. And I found that such an interesting statistic when that was actually the exact right-on amount that I needed when I started direct sales. That was the amount of the Cobra. $600 a month is a lot of people's different car payments. Depending on where you live, I mean, for single girls that live not in New York, that could be apartment rent. That could be the difference between living with their parents and not living with their parents, or living with a roommate instead of mom and dad. So talk numbers. That's the whole point of doing the hostess order form with her at the end of the night, is to show her the numbers. Jennifer, at this show, if you were to take advantage of my offer here to use this party as your launch party and try out the business, you would be receiving a paycheck of $275, because you're going to sit there and do that math before you leave. While she's over there saying goodbye to her friends at the door, you're sitting there with your calculator. And you want to have that number ready so that now you can tell her exactly what the paycheck is going to be. My oven timer is going off that the cleaning is done. I don't know if I have to turn it. Okay, it stopped. I guess I don't have to do anything. Okay, so I've never cleaned the oven in this house, so I don't know what's what. These are the things that we have to give concrete information about. So that's what is so smart about definitely at the end of your show, making sure that you do an overview version of your story, and why I am such a big believer in that album, because even if you forget to say a single solitary seed the entire party, you know you're going to be able to wrap it up at the end, because that's where you do it. And if you do the ticket game Q&A, it's going to come up there too. So you can't forget when you hard and fast structure this into your shows. So your story, if you have not put that together, you really can in just a couple of simple questions. Number 1, why did you get started with Park Lane? And again, we are talking 1 or 2 sentences, max 3, answering any of these questions. Why did you get started in Park Lane? What obstacle did you need to overcome in order to do that? Number 3, the number 3rd question is, What are you enjoying so far? You could even incorporate into that, what have you achieved so far? That would be fine as well. And then the fourth question is, what are you looking forward to in your business? So what that could actually sound like is, um, so ladies, I'm so excited to be here tonight. I actually got started in this business last year when I used to have overtime available to me, and my job cut my overtime, but I still needed that extra income, and I certainly couldn't quit the job I had. So I wanted to give this a try, but I really have never stood up and spoken in front of people before, so I was a little nervous about that. But the girl who answers all my questions and started me in the business, she actually showed me that you can use these cue cards throughout the show. So that's why you see me having these little cue cards here to make sure that I stay on track and share everything I'm supposed to. And it sure made it a lot easier to stand up here and talk to you girls. So I can't believe that in the year that I've been here, not only have I been enjoying doing the parties, but I've earned several hundred, if not $1,000 worth of additional free jewelry. I promoted and got a raise within my first couple of months of business. So it really has been unbelievable how well it's worked out, and I'm looking forward to my next promotion, and actually I'm working on my trip to Rome, which would be my first travel trip in direct sales. So if any of that sounds like something that might work for you, I would love to share some information with you later when we sit down. See how simple that is? You want to be able to, the reason is, a method to this madness. I got started because that's going to, whatever your reason is, I promise you somebody sitting there has the same reason. I was nervous, or I had to overcome blah, blah, blah. Whatever you had to overcome, at least half of the women in the room are going to have the same thing. I had to, of course, convince my husband, because to be honest with you, he never put the kids to bed before I started doing this. So that was something he had to adjust to. But as soon as those first couple of paychecks rolled in, he started asking me what I was doing home at night. So now I'm out doing plenty of shows. That's how you tell your story in a concise way that appeals to others as well. So if you need help with making your story truthful yet inclusive, then by all means, go over it with your leader or give me a call, because we certainly can take a look at it to make it appealing to a wide audience and easy for you to tell. That's why I say, you want to tell your story, which is just your, tiny little intro to work story, not your whole story, not your life story, just your story about how you got started, why you joined, how you got started, what you had to overcome, what you're enjoying. That's it. That's all you need. So, with that, are there any questions that I can answer for you at this point?
I have a question.
Okay.
So when you tell, why you started, is this at the end when you're checking out, or is this like your intro to your show?
It's the end of the show, meaning that okay, I've shown enough jewelry. They get the point. They heard the sale. At this point, they just need to get into the jewelry now. So before I cut them loose onto the jewelry, that's when I do it.
Okay.
And I let them know. So, hey, would you like to wrap it up with a little prize that I brought? And they always want to do that. They always want to try to win something. And then that's the part of the show where I do the story, the album, and the ticket game.
Okay.
Because then I'm also kind of getting their permission to do it. Because I've never had a show. Actually, okay, I had one show in 18 and a half years where people were not interested in doing a little wrap up and winning a prize. Like I said it and they said okay, but then got up and just started doing what they wanted to do anyway. And I was like, guess you're not getting a prize then. I put it away. So, that was one in the many, 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 many hundreds of parties that I've done. So they love it. And remember that, of course, the most important step in all of this, when you tell them, feel free to let me know, they're not going to do that. You have to ask them. Because it's not normal to go up to somebody and be like, hey, your job looks cool. Can I have it? That is not normal behavior, right? Would you go up to the girl at like the Gap as she's folding the shirts? Well, never mind, it's not a cool job, but would you be like, hey, can I have your job? Nobody does that. So we, of course, would welcome it. We think it's totally normal, but that's not normal societal behavior. So we have to be asking them if they want some information. Because when you put it out there, there's a huge difference between informing and inviting. What you're doing during your story, during your seed planting, during all of that is informing. You're informing them the opportunity is here. You're informing them there's money to be made, that there's jewelry to be received, that there's trips to be traveled on. But you haven't invited them to anything. In fact, even by saying, if this sounds like something that you'd be interested in, I'd invite you to, ask me when you sit down, or please let me know. That's still informing them that the opportunity is here. We have to do the inviting by asking each and every person. If you're not asking each and every person, I want you to think about how much longer it's going to take you to get to that 10. Right? Because if you're in the habit of asking every single person at the show if they want to have a show, you get more yeses because you get to the 10. If you did a show with 12 people, you're going past 10 just in one shot. And maybe you're getting 1, maybe you're getting 2 if your numbers are getting better. But if you only ask 2 of those people if they want business information, you have to do 5 more shows before you've even asked 10 people. That's an eternity. That could be next month. Depending on how often you do shows, that could be 3 months away. How are you going to get to area asking 2 people a show? You're not. You're going to make it really hard on yourself. All of these promotions, certainly through division, are done easier, faster than slower. Because when you need $5,000 in team sales, let's say, to promote to area, isn't it easier to get $5,000 in team sales in a month you launch 3 people? That's already $3,000. You should be selling the other 2. Or if you're selling 1 and your other recruit sells another one, 1,000. So we need to be doing the asking so that we can get people started in clusters, which is really what helps you propel forward faster. Any questions, thoughts, anything that I forgot to say that you feel should be said? Because I know we have some excellent recruiters on here and people that have, there are leaders on here that have promoted to these levels. There are leaders on here that came in at a higher title and then helped others promote. So if you have something that you would like to share, we would certainly love to hear it. Or if you have a question.
Michelle, I was just going to add, at the beginning you were talking about how, do we have the power to say, to not ask certain people, or, we stereotype the room and say, okay, this is, a group, nobody's going to want a job with me. No one's going to want to do it. Just going back to remind of the power of one, and that, that one person that did show up came for a reason, like you said. Maybe it's jewelry, but maybe it's because they are interested. And for me, that hits close to home because that's exactly what happened. And for my promotion to division it was one person that showed up to a show, and she ended up joining the business and was my final branch that I needed. And so to do that stereotype, who are we to say, just like you said. So just an important reminder that that's a real thing.
Love it. I remember that too. It was like, I'm not canceling, I'm just going. If it's one person, it's one person. And then what a magical person she was.
Yep.
So that's amazing. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, I hope that this little 2-part series was helpful in learning some new words and some just important reminders of what it takes to share the business enough times with enough people to get the results that you're looking for. So as long as it is coming from the right place from you, because like I said last week, the minute that you're thinking about what you have to get in order to get what you want, meaning I need to get 3 more people to go to area, I need to get 4 people to earn my trip to Rome. The minute that's the forefront of your mind, no, that is not going to work. It has to be, what do I have to offer and who here needs to receive it? And the faster that you can truly get your head around that, the faster your team is going to build. So thanks so much, everybody, for coming on live tonight. I'm going to post this recording, and feel free to send, tag your team members, remind them, because that's why, of course, I post the recording. So thanks for all of your contributions. Great seeing you tonight, and we will talk real soon. Bye.